Greetings and welcome to GRUNND PODCAST, a thing that you listen if you like adventure games, art, literature, music, game development and everything in between. Our today's guest is a mysterious man named Turian Shepard, an adventure games and Lego aficionado, who runs his YouTube channel that is dedicated to indie games and, well, you guessed it, Lego. We have a chat about two things, touching music a bit, charities and indie game dev realities in general. And don't forget, GRUNND is surreal sci-fi narrative driven adventure game where your choices matter. Follow us on Twitter, join our Discord. All our links and goodies and stuff is on grund.com. Also, we have a Kickstarter preview page. Let's hear that Discord call.
Hello.
Oh, hey.
Hello, how are you?
Fine, thank you. While we arranged this chat, while we were talking about having this podcast, I got a notion that you are quite busy, and probably you have your main job to take care of first before all YouTube's things and gaming things. Am I correct on this one?
Yeah, that's true. I work full time and I have quite a busy job, so I have to sort of squeeze the YouTube things in around work.
What do you do exactly? You can be vague. We don't need your name of the bank, but maybe in which direction are you in?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so I'm a marketing manager. I work here for a sort of an investment company.
Oh, right. Marketing manager. Then you actually know a thing or two about marketing.
I would like to think so. Yeah, I get paid for it, so I would hope so.
So does this skill transfers to your YouTube? I'm a bit hesitant to call it career. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it does a little bit. I think some of the basic principles are quite similar, but it's a completely different industry. So what works for sort of finance doesn't necessarily work for social media and like the YouTube side of things. I think getting people to engage with your content is very different to trying to sell something.
How YouTube came about in your life? Because it's probably some people do that, but usually you mull this idea. Is there a word, mull? I don't know.
Yeah.
You mull this idea in your head about starting YouTube, or it's if you want it to succeed, it's quite a big deal. So how the initial idea about doing this came to be and how it progressed further?
Yeah, sure. So I originally wanted to start making YouTube videos probably about 12 years ago. And I actually had another channel before this YouTube channel where I still did sort of gaming videos, but it was a very basic setup where I used my webcam to record my TV screen and it looked absolutely dreadful. You had all the staticky lines going up and down the image and all sorts. But I never really stuck at it. It was something I would make a video maybe every 3 or 4 months and just wasn't consistent at all. So when I created this channel about 5 years ago, I think it's 5 years old this month actually, I decided I was going to do it consistently, make videos. I think I started off with 2 videos a week. One of the series I did was FIFA 17, and then the other one was GTA Vice City. So I played a lot of sort of AAA titles originally, and then I sort of branched out to point and click stuff a bit later. Really, the adventure game stuff came about as almost a spin-off of the main content, but it's now taken over.
Why? Why indie games? Because of course, from one side you have to, by playing big AAA games, you have to compete with way more people for the eyeballs. but well, indie games are smaller niche, especially adventures.
Yeah, they are, and I think one of the things when I started playing indie games, I'd played a couple of the sort of well-known point-and-click games like Grim Fandango and Full Throttle and things like that on my channel. And I had a couple of indie developers reach out to me and ask if I wanted to cover their games on my channel as well. And I'd never done anything like that before, but I figured I'd give it a go. And actually, I find with indie games, I can really engage with the creations that the developers have made. You can really feel their passion and everything. They're pouring everything into those games, and you can feel that as a player. And I don't think you quite get that with a AAA title.
Of course.
You just and plus the engagement side, I like talking to the developers about their games, finding out what their inspirations were, why they created these games and what they mean to them. And I don't think you get that with a bigger game. So that's sort of where the passion in the indie game sort of side of things comes for me.
Before that, have you played a lot of indie games and adventure games? You mentioned Grim Fandango. Woohoo!
Yeah.
One of the best things ever. But besides that,
Not really, no. I mean, sort of the indie game scene is something which I discovered through YouTube. So I played sort of big release games, but actually indie games is something I didn't really touch until I started making YouTube videos. So it's like a whole new world to me, but it's something that I really love doing now.
awesome. So now it's 5 years. It's a lot of time. In order, it's hard to keep yourself consistent, making videos regularly.
Sure, yeah.
How hard or how easy it is for you? I know you love the games, but still, especially with a pretty well, you have a lot of responsibilities in your main job, I presume. You're
Yeah.
not talking about you're not dealing with a few pounds there. You're probably dealing with big budgets and stuff like that. So, and then after that, come home and do this thing now again, and again. How hard do you find it, or how easy?
It can be tricky, especially if you've had a long, tiring day, because I do all of my recording after work, so normally around 7 or 8 in the evening, and fitting that around sort of family life as well can be quite difficult. It means that my day probably starts around 7 in the morning and will end at about 9 o'clock at night before I get a bit of a rest. So I do that most days. So yeah, it can be tricky. But I also quite like having a bit of a routine to my day. So doing YouTube at that time every day actually works quite well for me. It keeps me quite consistent, makes it easy for me to release a video pretty much every day.
Lego. Do you
Yeah.
are you doing those now as well?
Yeah, do you mean the Lego videos?
Yeah.
Yeah, I am still doing them. I haven't done as many recently because I've been focusing more on the adventure game stuff. But yeah, I have got some sort of stored up. And I was actually considering setting up a separate channel for the Lego stuff as well, just because I'm not sure how well the Lego and the adventure gaming mix. So, but I don't know. I haven't really made a decision on that yet.
They probably don't. You should do a
Yeah.
separate channel.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
How the audience splits in your channel? Like, how much is Lego viewers and how much are game viewers?
I would say that the majority are game viewers. The Lego stuff was relatively recent that I started doing that. It was last December. So I do have a fair amount of people who watch the Lego stuff, but it's definitely more the adventure game stuff. I think that my viewers actually pay attention to, I would say.
I think it was quite a while, 2 weeks ago, but I think I read it on your YouTube channel's description that you donate the part of your proceeds to some charities.
Yeah.
To which I know I have written them here, but if you could tell us which charities and why, and maybe some story background of your
Yeah, yeah.
decision.
Yeah, of course. So there's two charities that I donate some of the proceeds from, well, the channel, whether it makes from ad revenue, patrons. I have a coffee page as well, all things like that. 20% of whatever I make goes to two charities. So one is Mind, which is a mental health charity, and then the other one is the local food bank around where I live. And they're just two charities that I can sort of resonate with, I guess. A couple of years ago, I had a lot of mental health problems. I had pretty much a complete mental breakdown, to be honest with you, and I needed access to sort of counselling and things like that. So it's something that I feel by making donations, I can help support people who might be in a situation that I was in a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the food bank, here in England especially, we're seeing more and more people needing to use food banks to feed their families because they just don't have the money to it, especially off the back of, we've had the pandemic and things recently, and a lot of people have lost their jobs. It's just a way of trying to help provide food for families, really. So anything I can do to help people out is something that I like to do.
Awesome. I knew that I had to leave my hat on because now I'm taking it off for you, sir. Thank you so much.
No, it's not a
And
problem at all.
of course, I have to mention these two words in every podcast I can. If people have some issues and having tough times, listen to black metal.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, I'm actually a big fan of metal music, so yeah, I can agree with that one.
It's actually surprising because before I started to dabble, before I started working in game development, I really thought that people connected with games don't listen metal much, and
Okay.
now I'm hearing from all over the place, and you as well. So awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
What
I
are
love
your
it.
favorite bands and genres, maybe?
Oh, it's quite ranged. So I'd say metal bands. Probably my favorite is Metallica. I've listened to Metallica since I was a little kid, and obviously they're still going now. I'm a big fan of Slipknot. I actually went to see Slipknot with my now wife on our first Valentine's Day together, which I'm sure
Awesome.
some people will think isn't the most romantic date for Valentine's Day. But yeah, we went to see Slipknot. Yeah, I mean, pretty much any of the classic metal bands I'm a big fan of, and some newer ones as well. Like I've been to see Avenged Sevenfold a couple of times. Bullet for My Valentine.
Hmm.
Pretty much, if it's metal, I'll listen to it. To be honest with you.
Really happy to hear that. Actually, I haven't heard that Metallica's latest monstrosity of an album. Can we call it an album? 50 plus songs. Well, covers of Metallica songs. It could be interesting.
Yeah, that's right. I think they've got a lot of people to cover their songs from the Black Album, haven't they? I haven't actually listened
Yep.
to it myself, but
Mhm.
yeah, it could be some interesting covers in there, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's dive back to YouTube then. Uh, okay, let's dive back to YouTube. You are doing what you're doing now for 5 years. I'm talking numbers. What is your? Do you have any goal for that? Do you want to conquer the world with your channel? What are the goals, if there are any, or are they needed at all?
I think the sort of the big dream goal, if you want to call it that, is I've always wanted to get to that 100,000 subscribers mark. You get the sort of silver play
Mm-hmm.
button from YouTube, so I think that would be sort of the dream goal. But I tend not to put too much into the numbers as goals, to be honest, because I think it's easy to get demotivated if you don't quite keep up with the numbers. So really, my main goal now is just to introduce as many people to the adventure game genre as I can, especially to indie games that are being worked on. It seems like through Twitter, especially every day or two, I'm finding another sort of adventure game project which really excites me. So just getting the word out about indie point and click games and trying to encourage the genre back into, I wouldn't necessarily say mainstream, but just to a point where it's popular and people are playing the games a lot again is something that I hope I can do with the channel.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say it's probably really the main thing I'm trying to do now.
It sounds like a tiny bit that you are actually running a charity as well, because you help those who are in need, and myself included. Thank you for your amazing walkthrough.
No, you're very welcome. Yeah, I mean, your game is one that I think originally I found your game. I posted on Twitter about if any developers were working on games at the moment to send them over, and it just sort of instantly caught my eye. I just love the art style and everything on the screenshots that you sent me. But I think it's very very difficult for developers to get their games out there. So anything I can do to help developers out with sort of gaining players for their games, then that's what I want to be doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, you said that you weren't much of an adventure game player before this YouTube channel, but since then you have played plenty, old ones and new ones. Have you noticed any changes between how an adventure games have developed through the years, bad and good?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say mostly good, to be honest with you. I'm seeing now, especially in the sort of indie game area, a lot of sort of new mechanics. Because obviously, point and click games always had that relatively classic interface. There were a couple of little minor variations you got, but it was mostly the same mechanics. Whereas now, especially in the indie scene, you're seeing a lot of new mechanics being thrown into. You're almost getting a blend of what worked really well, but the genre is moving forward, and I think that's quite important. We're not just sort of developing more of the same. The genre is growing and evolving, and I think that's definitely a positive thing. Negatives, honestly, in the adventure game genre, I'm not seeing too many negatives. But that might be because I'm such a fan of adventure games that I'm being a little bit biased. It could well be that.
It's one of those healthy bias, I presume.
Yeah.
Adventure games are probably the ones that have usually the strongest I never can say this word. Narrative.
Yeah.
Your favorites. I'm dropping Disco Elysium name here. Bam. It's not an adventure point and click, but still. They are the gods, but after them, after those guys, your biggest, your strongest impressions about narrative in games?
I mean, I think what really hooks me on adventure games in particular is being able to relate to a character. Art style and things like that, and the narrative of the actual sort of story is important. But I think if I can relate to the character and what's going on, I think that's something which is really important to me. Take, for example, the Monkey Island series. Guybrush Threepwood is just a character that I just love. Everything about his character is fantastic. And I think that's important for me to be hooked on a game, is characters and art style. And I think those are the two main areas.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you should talk about Monkey Island with Shorsha from Adventure Games podcast. He loves that stuff.
Yeah, I think Monkey Island is probably my all-time favorite series of games. So that definitely sounds like an idea.
Oh, you too. Oh, my God. Um, a bit more serious question. Recently, like a month ago, there was a one indie developer tweeted out that he's done with creating games because his game was shorter than 2 hours, and he get like a gazillion refunds from the people who actually finished the game. Uh, what do you think about the Steam's policy that you can refund if you have played 2 hours? What maybe your view on how it could be changed so little guys are not like killed off?
Yeah, I did see about that on Twitter actually. It's something that I just don't agree with. I think it's a bit of a ridiculous policy, to be honest with you. Especially for the sort of indie developers who sometimes tend to make shorter games because obviously some developers work entirely on their own. I don't know. I just think unless there's a serious flaw with the game, like it's unplayable or it's just not what it's advertised to be, I don't think that being able to refund a game because it's under 2 hours it is a sensible thing to be encouraging. I think it almost gives people, and I'm sure there are a minority of people, but it almost gives them a sort of a way of playing games for free. They could buy the game, play it, and then refund it just to get their money back, even if they enjoyed the game. So yeah, I personally don't think it's a good policy at all.
How do you think? Well, you have talked with gazillion developers and played gazillion games. Probably you might feel how the our landscape is changing and where indie game development goes, how it evolves. What do you think? What holds? What next 5-10 years hold for small indie devs? It's really a
Um,
broad question. I'm sorry.
no, it's fine. I would hope that we're going to continue seeing this trend of more and more indie developers making games because I think it's been very refreshing to see smaller studios, sometimes even one person on their own, creating things that they're passionate about. And as much as I enjoy AAA games, um, you just don't feel that sense of passion and pride and feel all the hard work of those developers in the same way that you do with indie games. So I personally would love to see indie games becoming more and more popular.
Mm.
I think it's important that we give more airtime to these projects. Quite often, you'll see sort of the big reporting companies for games talk about indie games and why we should give them more time and things, but then they spend all their time promoting the massive projects. So I would hope that we'll see more coverage from those huge companies for the little games, for the little projects, especially the ones which really stand out. I think it's important that we give them the exposure that they need to
Mhm.
grow and encourage the developers to come back and make more games in the future.
Of course, there hides another problem that if there will be even more indie devs, uh, the market gets oversaturated, and then you can't ask $15 for your game. You have to ask 5, and then it's probably just stays as a passion project and not a viable way of income. That could be also a problem.
It could, yeah. Yeah, that is definitely a possibility. I think one thing that might work in the favor of indie devs is that everything I've played feels completely unique. I don't think I've played two indie point and click games which feel like the same game. You can just feel that it's almost like the developers are pouring themselves and their personalities into the games, and you can feel it even if games have a similar sort of theme, like they might be detective based games. And during indie games, you can just feel that they're not the same thing. It's quite difficult to explain it. Um, but I would hope that the fact that indie games can be so different would help encourage people to keep buying them. and maybe not see that price drop. Obviously, the more games there are, people will have less money to spend on games, but I would hope that it wouldn't get to a point where they would be so cheap that they would have to be passion projects.
I just fuck. I had a comment on this. Obviously, I'm cutting this out. What was okay? I forgot. No, I wanted to ask that one. Why Turian Shepard?
Why Turian Shepard? That's a good question. That goes back quite a long way, actually. I couldn't think of a name for my YouTube channel when I created it, and that was the name I was using at the time when I was playing a lot of Minecraft with my friends. And it comes from the Mass Effect series, where obviously the Turians are a race on there, and then Shepard is the main character. And I just sort of threw them together and created a Minecraft skin that was basically the N7 armor from Mass Effect with a Turian's head on it. So when I created my YouTube channel, I just used that, and I just kept it basically.
Did you work in marketing at those times as well?
I didn't. No. It was way before that. So maybe that is something that I would have done differently if I was working in marketing. I don't know.
Then you're excused, because to Google Turian Shepard and to find you, it's impossible.
Yeah, that I did think that would be the case.
The next best thing would be to call yourself Google. Okay, that's it from me. So yeah, as I promised, short and about you. So thank you, man. We all await what you bring to us next.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's been good. Thank you for having me. And I think I'm probably going to start a podcast myself soon. So it'd be great to have you on there as a guest so you can talk about your game.
Hell yeah!
Yeah?
Oh.
Right, let's do that. That sounds like a plan.
Too bad that we can't have music in our podcast. No, if we don't have gazillion millions as a budget, or probably it would be awesome to, when you speak with a person, to put in a couple songs in.
Yeah, that'd be good. We could have some metal songs playing in the background.
Sure, yeah. I actually have one riff. Like, can I say that? I figured that no, it's a bad idea. Okay, man. Thank you again.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Have a coffee.
Yeah, I will do. I'm going to go and grab one now. You too.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Right, good to speak to you. Bye-bye.
Bye. This is it for today. Edited this one kind of light-handed. Let me know if my emmms and ammms bother you too much or not. Just figured maybe this way all the sound will be more genuine. Let me know. And bye.